Okay, if you've been anywhere near tech news lately, you know the Samsung Galaxy S26 is, well, it's a mess of rumors, right? One week we're hearing one thing, the next week something totally different. So you know what? Let's cut through all that noise. We're going to separate the fact from the fiction using the latest firmware leaks and insider reports to figure out what's really going on. And this is the big one, isn't it? Pro, Edge, Plus. I mean, what is the real S26 lineup gonna look like? The names have been flying all over the place, so let's just get straight to it and figure out what phones you'll actually be able to buy. So, at the beginning, the story was wild. The early leaks pointed to this massive shakeup. Seriously, the whole industry was buzzing. We were hearing about a totally new lineup with a brand new Pro model and the super slim Edge version. It really felt like Samsung was about to throw out their old playbook and start fresh. But then, bam, the first big piece of news dropped. The slim Edge model canceled, just like that. And you gotta ask, why? Well, it turns out people just aren't buying these super thin phones. Not just Samsung's, but even Apple's thin models haven't been selling well. So Samsung looked at the numbers and, yeah, they pulled the plug. So with the Edge model completely off the table, Samsung had to scramble. They had to pivot, and they had to do it fast. This basically forced a total reboot of the S26 family. And what they ended up with is, well, a lot more familiar than what they first planned. Let's break down exactly how it all changed. Okay, so look at this. The original rumored plan is on the left, and it's gone, thrown right out the window. On the right is what we're actually getting, and this is confirmed by firmware leaks. That flashy Pro model, it just got rebranded to become the standard Galaxy S26. And the real shocker? The Plus model, which everyone thought was dead in the water, made a surprise comeback. All right, now that we know which phones are coming, what's inside them? Let's get into the cameras for the regular S26 and the S26 Plus. And, the story here is it's a bit of a mixed bag. There are some really nice upgrades, but also some, let's just call them, interesting compromises. So here's the spec sheet, straight from the firmware. The good stuff is right at the top. We're getting a brand new 50-megapixel main sensor and a new 12-megapixel telephoto. That's fantastic. But then you get to the ultra-wide. And yeah, they're using the same old Sony sensor from past phones. A bit of a letdown there. But hey, let's stick with the positive for a second. The telephoto lens. This is a big deal. They are finally getting rid of that old 10-megapixel sensor. Moving up to a new 12-megapixel one is a genuine upgrade. It means better quality, more detail when you zoom in. This is something people have been wanting for a while.
And that brings us right back to that compromise. The folks at SmartPrix really hit the nail on the head here. Not upgrading the ultra-wide camera, it just feels like a huge missed opportunity. I mean, why do it? Well, from a marketing perspective, it kind of makes sense. It keeps all the secondary cameras at 12 megapixels. But if you're a tech fan hoping for a clean sweep of new hardware, yeah, it's disappointing for sure. Moving on from cameras for a sec, we've also got some other key specs confirmed. The batteries are looking pretty solid, 4300 mAh for the base model and a nice big 4900 for the Plus. But check this out, especially if you're into video. We're getting support for something called the Advanced Professional Video Codec, or APV. What does that actually mean for you? It means your videos, shot in 4K at 60 frames per second, are going to capture way more color data and detail. It's basically a feature to get that professional, cinematic look straight out of your phone.
Okay, so that's the S26 and the Plus. But what about the big kahuna, the S26 Ultra? What's the story there? Well, this is where things get interesting because it looks like the biggest upgrades for the Ultra this year aren't actually hardware, they're in the software. And this is the main event right here. The Ultra is getting a major software boost to 24-megapixel default photos. Think about it. For years, Samsung had this giant 200-megapixel sensor, but it would spit out 12-megapixel photos. At the same time, Apple's iPhones were defaulting to 24, giving them an edge in detail. Well, with the S26 Ultra, Samsung is finally closing that gap. We're talking 24-megapixel default for regular photos and portrait mode. But, and this is a big but, there's a catch. For some reason, this amazing new feature isn't turned on by default. No, you have to go download another app, Samsung's Camera Assistant, then dig into the settings and turn it on yourself. It's a really weird choice, right? Hiding one of your best new features like that.
Now, that same app also unlocks some other cool pro controls. The one I'm really excited about is a focus speed slider. This is going to let you do those smooth, cinematic focus pulls in your videos. You know where the focus shifts from something in the foreground to the background? Super cool. You also get more control over HDR and a new adaptive pixel feature that's supposed to make your low-light shots even better.
Okay, let's switch gears from what you see to what's running the show. We're talking chipsets. And if you follow Samsung, you know this is always a complicated and honestly pretty controversial topic. That classic battle between Samsung's Exynos chip and Qualcomm's Snapdragon, well, it's back again. But this year, there's a fascinating new twist. For the regular S26 and the S26 Plus, it's pretty much business as usual. If you're in the US, you'll probably get the new Snapdragon 8 Gen 5. If you're in most other parts of the world, you're getting Samsung's own Exynos 2600. It's the same dual-chip strategy they've been using forever. But the Ultra, oh man, this is where the plot twists. For months, we all just assumed it would be the same deal. Exynos here, Snapdragon there. But the latest leaks, the really credible ones, are saying something totally different. The S26 Ultra is now expected to be Snapdragon 8 Gen 5 only for everyone everywhere in the world. That is a huge change in strategy. It says they are prioritizing top-tier consistent performance for their most expensive phone. Now, in fairness to Samsung, they're making some pretty big claims about their new Exynos chip. Officially, they're saying the Exynos 2600 runs 30% cooler than the last one. I mean, a whopping 30%. If that's actually true, it would be a game changer, because it would fix the #1 problem Exynos has always had, overheating and slowing down. But, and you knew there was a but coming, like the guys at Tech Talk TV said, this is Exynos we're talking about. They have a really long history of promising the moon and not quite delivering, especially when it comes to heat. They've kind of burned through their credibility. So yeah, I'm taking a believe it when I see it approach on this one. So, wow. After all that, the canceled phones, the camera compromises, the wild chipset strategy, what does it all mean for you? What's the final verdict? Let's pull all these pieces together and see what the S26 lineup is really all about. Okay, so here's the big picture. First, Samsung scrapped their crazy plans and went with a much simpler, more logical lineup. Second, the S26 and Plus are getting some okay camera upgrades, but nothing mind-blowing. Third, the real upgrades for the Ultra are all happening in the software. And finally, and maybe this is the most important point, their entire high-end strategy now relies on Snapdragon, which tells you they want guaranteed performance for their flagship phone. And all of this leaves us with one big question, right? Is the Galaxy S26 actually an exciting leap forward? Or is this just Samsung playing it safe? I mean, did they create a truly innovative phone, or did they just scrap their riskier ideas to build a more predictable, profitable device? What do you think? I guess we'll find out for sure when it finally launches.